Let's talk a little bit about business structure. Sometimes people ask me, how do I start a business? The three business structure in the United States are basically sole proprietor, LLC, C Corp. In general, there is S Corp, but we won't touch on that one really. What's the difference? In general, a sole proprietor, if we start with that, is you. Say you want to start a business. No paperwork, you just create a name, a DBA. It's going to be Kelly's business. And you go out and start business. Very easy. Not much paperwork or anything like that. That's a sole proprietor. An LLC is more of a structure. You have to get with the state, get permission, pay, and you create this entity, which is separate from yourself, and that is an LLC. You need a lawyer to write up the agreements. If it's just you, it's one, or if it's you and your brother, then you write up how it's going to be, 50-50, or that sort. A C corporation is similar to an LLC in that it is a separate entity. However, the separation is done by shares, not necessarily an agreement between you or anyone else. You have a certain amount of shares, and you can have this amount, and they can have this amount, and you can have other people get involved. What are the difference between them, and which is best for you when you want to start a business? If you want to start a business, never use a sole proprietor. There's two problems. It offers no protection, that is personal protection from your personal assets, and it offers no tax benefit. An LLC and a C corporation is another entity. It's not you. It's a totally separate entity. It's almost like a different individual that you've created. And say, for example, it's a restaurant, and great restaurant, doing well, and for some reason something happens. Someone gets poisoned, and they decide to sue you. With a LLC or a C corporation, properly run, they can sue you and take your restaurant. But you have the protection of your personal assets. Your car, your mother's house that she gave to you, or your home, and all your other personal assets, they really can't get to. They can only get to the business. So you're protected. That's the benefit of having a business, a C corporation, or an LLC. Even if they decide to take everything you have in the restaurant. That's as much as they can get. However, if that restaurant was a sole proprietor, not an LLC, not a C corporation, they could take the restaurant. They could take your car. They could take your house. Everything that is under your name, they could take because you have no protection. Your personal assets is not protected. And hence the difference between a sole proprietor and a business like an LLC and a C corporation. The second benefit is tax benefits. Understand this. Just simply, I'm not going to go into great detail about tax because this subject never ends. However, realize that as a worker, as a person, you, when you work, has a job, which pretty much what a sole proprietor is. You're the same tax entity, or the same tax principles apply to you as anyone who has a job. Even though you have a business, you pay tax the same as a person that's working, for the most part. When you are a worker, working for a job, and you get paid, the first person that gets paid is the government. So they say, okay, you got paid $100,000. Well, we need to take, 60,000 or 50,000, whatever they've decided. Then they'll give you 50,000. You can use that for your whatever you wish to do. That's how a worker works. You get paid what's left after the government have taken their taxes. It's just what it is. Sole proprietor, pretty much you are the same. You are doing your taxes as a worker, and the government will take its money and then give you what's left. A business pays tax differently. With the business gets 100,000. Now the business can pay their expenses before taxes. They can say, okay, you know what, I need a car, I need a computer, I need this, and they can use up all that money. Say they use up 90,000. Then they say, okay, I got 10,000 left. Then the government will say, okay, give us the taxes from the 10,000. Hence you can see the benefit of a business. They can spend a lot more of that money to benefit the business than we can as a worker, because they can spend before the taxes are taken out. So having those two benefits, you can see why, if you're going into business, it's best to have either an LLC or a C corporation, and both provide that sort of a benefits rather than a sole proprietor. The next question that comes up is, I would like to start a business. Which is the best for me, would you suggest? If you're trying to decide whether it's going to be a C corporation or an LLC and you're not sure, okay, put simply, decide. Is it you and your brother? And is this business going to stay that way? Like, for example, is it like a management company? And it's going to stay between the two of you. You're not intending to sell shares. It's not going to be like a global business of that sort. Then an LLC is fine. Your lawyer will write out, okay, 50-50 or 25-75, however, and you will write it up, and that would be the agreement with the LLC. Now, if you're starting to create a business like, say, Facebook, and you want to eventually sell shares to millions of people, then a C corporation is best. Because in that way, you can then get shares and be ready and prepared to sell shares. Most of the entities cost possibly $1,000 or less to create, and then you get your paperwork and you go from there. Not very difficult. Of course, a sole proprietor takes no effort. However, the price you pay in having a sole proprietor of a business is more than you want to pay or more than you have to pay.